Cabbages, a thick green leafy vegetable with a high nutritional value, usually grown on a small scale for home consumption, but make no mistake, it equally reaps big on large commercial setup, mainly because of its low capital requirement input and the relatively short period needed to mature, approximately about 3 months. For these, make cabbage growing a viable startup in farming for many beginning farmers. Tonight, we'll learn how to kickstart this venture, coming up on Seeds of Gold.
The next thing that we like about cabbages is the period it takes. Because the period it takes 4 months and you have already harvested everything and your money is in the pocket.
Alex Kagoda, a resident of Lubanyi in Kamuli district, is a vegetable farmer specializing in tomatoes, cabbages and eggplants. For the past 4 years, he has consistently focused on growing cabbages to supply his community with this nutritious plant. He tells us why he prefers cabbages and later takes us through a step-by-step process of growing cabbages.
The reason as to why I chose to do vegetables is for the reasons that vegetables add a lot to our diet. That's the vitamins for the children and for everyone. And the next thing that we like about cabbages is the period it takes. Because the period it takes 4 months and you have already harvested everything and your money is in the pocket.
From the training and experience he has gained over the years, Alex recommends a 5-stage process that will ensure not only the survival but also the quality yield success for our cabbages. Step 1. Preparing the lands.
The moment you decide to do cabbages is you prepare the garden, and usually the garden will prepare it twice. You weed it, then you plow it so that you can give your cabbages a soft start. Either you spray to kill the weeds when they are too much grown, and then or you plow using a tractor, or you can also go in using hand hoe. After that, you go in and plow. That's preparing the land, removing the big lumps of soil so that the garden is smooth. Meanwhile, as you're doing that, you're also preparing the nursery bed. The nursery bed is where we first plant the seedlings. And the seedlings are very small. So we have to give them a good start by covering them. You know, they need special care before they can be exposed to the conditions of nature.
Cabbages are said to have a shallow root system that requires a lot of care, from fine fertile soils, adequate moisture, a 6 to 5 slightly acidic pH to maintaining moderate sunlight, all of which call for a controlled environment. This is how Alex addresses that. Step number 2, preparing the seedlings using a nursery bed.
Preparing the nursery bed, you have to have this in mind. One, you don't need to plant a very big nursery bed. You just need around, let me say 6 feet by around 4. We draw lines because the seedlings are put in a line for easy uprooting. And then after, we cover with mulch. The mulch is to enable us keep moisture in the soil so that when it's growing, it has all the moisture and it's not exposed to the sun. You're cultivating the nursery bed, you use a forked hoe. A forked hoe is one specialized hoe, kind of a tool that you use to dig deep into the ground. You make a pile of soil and then you remove all the grasses, all the roots. So the garden, the part that you have used to make the nursery bed is just too good. It has no grasses, it has no roots, it has no dead sticks and anything that can deter the growth of your seedlings. Because remember, you're preparing something that you need the biggest harvest from. You can also use a hoe if you don't have a forked hoe, only that when you are using a hoe, the disadvantage is it cuts chunks, lumps of soil. So you have to go ahead and break them small. However, when you're using the forked hoe, it already has space in it. When it is digging the soil, it brings out in its porous form. So that prepares the soil very well. Because remember, what we dislike when preparing the nursery bed is putting too much soil on the seeds. Remember, these seeds are too small. So you need to put a little soil on them. But if you use the hoe and the whole lump fall in it, it won't come up. And remember, when you're making the nursery bed determines your main garden. If you're going to prepare like an acre of land, you may need around 4 sackets of seedlings, which go in for 10 grams. For example, for me, I'm using East Africa seeds. They grow well and they bring big cabbages. So when you're preparing, you use smooth soil and then you use a small stick to level the holes, the lines that you have drawn, kind of the ditches, those small trenches, to level them. You put small levels. However, if you can access also manure, that's the farmyard manure, the cow dung, you bring it up, mix it with some soil, and then you use that to pour it into your garden. Dry. Yeah, it should be dry manure that has turned into soil. Usually, we store it like for a month, such that the decomposition has taken place and everything is now soil. Because when you use manure that has not decomposed, it can burn the nursery bed. Remember, we are dealing with delicate plants. Usually every plant when still young, it's too delicate. Remember, when you are making the garden, the nursery bed, some seeds may not come up because these are seeds that have been chosen, but some may have some problems, so they may not come up. So you make your nursery bed have much, so that when you're making your garden, you can cover the whole garden. Then another thing that you need to know, when you cover and you have put in your seeds, you need to start watering it. Because by watering your nursery bed, it provides the moisture that is needed before the rains. If it rains, it's good. You should make sure your nursery bed is close to the garden. That one gives you easy planting or transplant. Because you're not transferring from the nursery to the main garden, you don't need to work a lot, moving a long distance. And then also, it reduces the time you take from transferring the plants from the nursery bed to the garden, because these plants are delicate. When you're transferring from a long distance, they can easily wither. And then also another thing that we shouldn't forget, because of the rains that come in and then the water that drips, we should dig a trench around the nursery bed, so that in case your land is a sloping one, the water shouldn't sweep through your nursery bed, because you lose all the seedlings. But when you have a trench, when the water comes, all the water that comes out of the roof that you have put over your seedlings, it drips and then goes off. That brings you a better growth. And also remember, it doesn't need a lot of rain. That's the reason as why we put some bit of mulch. The direct rain or the direct watering increases the soil that goes onto the seeds. So because of the fact that they are delicate, it affects them to grow. Some may not spring up because they may not have the energy to penetrate through the soil that is too much.
Step number 3, transplanting to the main garden.
When you're transferring your seedlings from the nursery to the main garden, this is what you should have in mind. First, you need to dig or weed. The garden should be clean, pure soil, no grass, nothing. Because one thing that you hate as a farmer is just transferring your seedlings and then the weeds come up before you are prepared to dig. And the day you transfer, you water. Because remember, you're removing from the garden, from the nursery bed, where you have been caring for these plants so well, you are bringing them to another new environment. So in the new environment, you should care for it at the same level.
Cabbages are poor competitors of weeds, thus should be protected. But you avoid excessive weeding, as this may lower yields due to excessive water loss. Mulching helps retain the moisture in the soil, while the irrigation should be done whenever necessary, as Alex explains. Step number 4, maintenance.
After transferring your plants to the main garden that you have prepared so well, you are plowed, and you put in your seedlings, you have to make sure that you water them for the first day. And then when you water them, you also have to spray. Usually we use rocket, and use rocket and any fertilizer that you put. For us, when you're transferring, when you're planting, we usually put 2 spoonfuls of DAP in each hole. DAP is a fertilizer that contains nutrients like phosphate, nitrogen, and potassium. It usually stays for over 7 months within the soil. So your soil will also remain fertile even after you have removed your cabbages, which is very important for the soil and for the next plant. Then, when you use herbicides to control, herbicides can't be used in cabbages because they will dry up. However, you do hand hoe. And when you're doing hand hoe, you have to make sure that the spacing was right, and the person who is weeding is careful not to cut, because any cabbage that is damaged on the stem will dry up immediately. So you have to weed delicately, and you remove all the grasses. If you can't weed next to the plant, just use hands to remove the grass so that you can weed the rest. And then also another thing that you shouldn't forget with the cabbage, after you have planted and you are weeding for the first time, cover up the hole so that it is smooth, because these seedlings don't need water to pile, like water pooling into one place, making kind of a pool. It will rot. The stem rots, and when the stem rots, it dies. So you have to cover up the hole, and then you cover up the hole, the garden is weeded well, and everything moves on well. However, don't forget, we put spagro. Usually when you're spraying for the cabbage, when spraying the cabbages, you put supergrow as a fertilizer, and then we also put DAP. That's before you plant. So we use DAP as a pre-transplanting fertilizer, and then we use DAP. We use supergrow as a post-transplanting fertilizer. Reason being, the supergrow enables it, even if there is too much sun, it enables it to remain strong and withstand the conditions.
Step number 5, disease and pest control.
One of the advantages of starting off our cabbage from a nursery bed is it ensures that we are able to take care of the young seedlings very well in a very small place, minimizing time and ensuring that each of the seedlings gets equal amount of care. Starting these seedlings from a nursery bed also will ensure that we only transplant healthy seedlings that, once transplanted into the main garden, are able to grow very fast and to also resist some of the challenges that could be faced by seedlings that have been directly planted into the garden. Like any other crop, cabbages are also affected by, or that they could be affected by a number of issues. Some of those could be diseases, others could be insect pests. We'll start with the diseases. There are a number of diseases that could attack your cabbages. Some diseases are caused by fungi or fungus. Other diseases could be caused by viruses. And there are also a few diseases that are caused by bacteria. Most of the diseases that could attack your cabbages could actually be caused by different kinds of fungi, which usually affect crops in the main gardens or even in the nursery bed, especially during the periods of high humidity and a bit of warm temperature. But most of those have solutions. There are a number of chemicals that we have that could help a farmer ensure that you prevent these diseases, and in case they set in, you spray such that you're able to cure them. Some of the diseases that are most common in cabbages, there's one very common one called black rot. It's a disease caused by bacteria. Farmers commonly call it it's a black rot bacterial disease, and usually it's called in the local language in Luganda, it's called kasanja, and its symptoms are usually yellow V-shaped lesions along the margins of the leaves, and sometimes these grow within, and over time, if the infestation is strong, then the cabbage head could actually also become black. What is important for farmers to know is that some of these diseases, especially this one, will be transmitted from the seed. So it is important to obtain clean, disease-free certified cabbage seed. If you start with clean, disease-free certified seed, chances are that you may not be affected, or your cabbages may not be infected by such diseases. Nevertheless, there are a number of other diseases, including powdery mildew, Cercospora leaf spot, Alternaria leaf spot, that could attack your gardens during the main garden. So what is important for a farmer to know is that there are fungicides that we use to prevent diseases, and there are also those that we use to cure diseases. Indofil is a mancozeb-based fungicide that we use to prevent all kinds of, or most common kinds of fungal diseases. This Indofil is a yellow powder. Usually farmers that grow tomatoes use it a lot, and sometimes they've labeled it a fungicide or a chemical for tomatoes. You can use it on almost all other crops for purposes of preventing disease. So once you realize disease is setting in, then we change to a stronger fungicide or a curative fungicide such as Harvester XL, Tropilite, and so many others. So to prevent the black rot of crucifers, or what farmers usually call kasanja, being a bacterial disease, we use a bactericide called bacteremicin. It is very good. It's an immunomodulator. It increases the strength, the immune system, or the immune strength of the cabbages, such that they are able to fight off.
Another thing that also that we need to know, when do we discover the cabbages or the diseases of the cabbage? Diseases of the cabbages, just one main thing, the insects. They eat up the leaves and form different holes. And remember, these holes, these cabbages and the leaves that have been put in the holes are the ones that are going to make the cabbage, to fold and make the cabbage. So you don't need a damaged leaf to form for your cabbage. It won't be compact. So you need to spray such that no insect or fungal, anything that causes disease is covered within. Because if it's covered within, it's going to start eating and your cabbage will rot.
Growing cabbages is not only capital intensive, it also ensures quick returns because of the short period it takes to harvest. What should be your expected timelines?
Cabbages usually takes 4 months, but the 4 months are split like this. The first three weeks are for the nursery bed. So after the nursery bed, you transfer it to the main garden. In the main garden, it gains the strength. That's usually in the first 2 weeks, gains the strength, and with the fertilizer and the care that you give it, it starts to form the leaves, big leaves. And when it becomes a very healthy plant, big, it forms up 2 main leaves that later on start folding in around like 2.5 months to start forming the cabbage. And by 4 months, you should be able to start harvesting your cabbages, because when you leave it too long into the garden, it starts to rot. And then you should also make sure that the best seasons for digging or for cultivating cabbages are the rainy seasons. That's usually between October to around December, or if you start earlier, if you can water, you can start from January, and by March you have your harvest.
One farmer in the nearby region possesses 1 acre of land where she grows 10,000 cabbages of a different variety and approach. When she gets a good market, she sells at 1,000 per head, earning her 10 million Ugandan shillings. This is where our inspiration was initially drawn from. We asked Alex how profitable this business is.
Cabbages, usually, remember we buy a sacket at 18,000 and you have bought around 4 sackets, and then you get over 1,500 plants that you have transferred. If your cabbage has been catered for well and has been cared for very well, it should give you around 1,000 farmer from the farmer's end, because we are looking at cabbages that make a kilo. It should give you 1,000. So if you have over 1,500 to 2,000 plants, you should be able to make a big profit, because now we are going to multiply over 1,000 times this. That's almost 0.5, and you may put in around 300 to 400,000. So you should be able to make a profit of around $1 million within a period of 4 months.
You too can make it today if you only start, only on Seeds of Gold.